This is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
It's true, Mark and Joe here. You there. Lewis Morgan receives a gift from the Houston Dynamo, then gives New York the win as the Red Bulls have a 2-match unbeaten streak to start 2024. Tonight on Seeing Red, we'll go inside that 2-1 win at Houston. We'll give our Bull of the Week. Pretty confident on who I think it's going to be. We'll set the stage for Saturday night's home opener against FC Dallas. New York is out of the Open Cup before it even starts, and we'll dig into all that big mess. We'll talk about things that are happening around the team and around Red Bull Arena before kickoff on Saturday. Our guest is OG among OGs, Buzz Carrick of Third Degree on FC Dallas, has been covering them literally since the beginning, and we've got a healthy email bag. I'm Mark. I'm here with Joe. There's Joe. How are you? We got our first win of the season. It's got to feel real good, my friend.
It especially feels good when you predict a loss. So I'm happily eating my words.
First of many.
For days. I got leftover words. So yeah, it was overwhelming to me.
Yeah, I mean, things start out a little shaky, right? Defense kind of gets pulled out of shape. You don't usually see Daniel Edelman defending on attackers. Houston doing exactly what you have to do against New York, which is balls over the top. Edelman gave it his all. He was completely isolated, solid finish, no sweat off of Coronel. It really was a team effort in terms of the defense letting New York down. The first goal they conceded. We saw some really terrific linking up. Noah Ayala makes the MLS Team of the Week. My word. Breaking lines left, right, and center. A quick sequence between him, a back heel from Manuel, and Forsberg was, I mean, the notion that this team is actually playing beautiful soccer at times with what we've seen over the last 5 years. I mean, it was an eye-opening. What were the other highlights for you, sir?
Well, you had mentioned the 25 pass sequence after the giving up the goal. So I was amazed. How often do you see that in the Red Bulls? I don't know. I think that, yes, Lewis Morgan is rightly lauded, but Dante and Manuel, they played not beautifully off each other, but Manuel is starting to get the notes of what Sandy's asking him and pulling defenders away, coming back for the ball, linking up 1-2 touches. And that's what you want to see. I think that Dante is maybe a step back, but the pinpoint cross on Manuel's goal was beautiful. And Emil hit the post for another week.
Yep, he sure did. Listen, I'm getting the sense from the fan base that Van Zier, for whatever reason, is starting to move to get the GOAT mantle, and I really want to push back on that. I mean, yes, it's true there was an opportunity with an open net that a better finish might have been in order, but he delivered a picture-perfect ball for Manuel to head into space, right to his head. He wasn't going to miss from there. And so I just want a shortcut right now for folks that are going to start to get on Van Zier. He is a very important part of the offense. And yes, Joe, I agree. He may be a step behind Manuel in terms of adapting to what Schwartz wants, but he is absolutely contributing. And so fans should absolutely, in a world where the team has a win and a draw, both on the road to start the season.
Yeah.
Things are going very, very well. I want to talk about John Tolkien. I mean, New York probably rushed him into service, I think, a little sooner than perhaps he was ready for. I think he clearly is not 100% yet, and there were a couple of rusty moments for sure. Times he was getting beat, times he was a little out of position. It's all going to come. The winning notion here is that New York won the game, and hopefully, although I'm pretty confident Tolkien did not delay his return to full strength by picking up an injury. We did hear earlier today by our friend Joe Pantorno in AM New York that the injury that put Peter Stroud off the field and brought Lewis Morgan on is not serious, and that Stroud has returned and is training, which is a really, really good thing, because that looked like a bad shoulder separation that could be weeks and weeks.
I think that initially it didn't look bad, the live, I mean, but you can see he was in a lot of pain, and I'm thankful for the swift recovery.
Yeah, for sure, because New York's going to need his depth. I mean, and in a world where Lewis Morgan is getting closer and closer to being a starter and being able to contribute over a meaningful amount of time, we're going to need Stroud to be able to perform admirably. And then, I mean, we have to talk about Lewis Morgan. For me, the number one story of the night comes on only 35 minutes into the game, immediately makes his impact felt, absolutely blisters the gift from the Houston defense for the winning goal. Really a tremendous performance. Morgan himself said afterwards that he's not 100% by any means, but to come back, it's his first goal since October of 2022, and had a hand in both of New York's goals. And I mean, that sound you hear is growing optimism. And as we get into what's going on with Dallas right now, I mean, most of the East has a win and a draw or better right now. I think New York is tied with something like 8 teams with on 4 points, but having both of those results on the road should give New York a tremendous amount of confidence. And now is the time to absolutely be stockpiling points. If New York is going to, frankly, contend for a home playoff spot this year. All of the journalists around the league have certainly noticed New York was 3rd in ESPN.com's power rankings and 9th in MLS's power rankings. This is a team that completed 85% of its passes on Saturday night, and from what we've seen over the last few years, I mean, really unheard of. So Schwartz's team is, for me, ahead of schedule. And I think the fans that are going to make the trip to Harrison on Saturday are going to be treated to hopefully something special.
Yeah, I think that I'm glad you called that out about Lewis Morgan is his involvement in the first goal, because without that turnover, nothing happens. So great from him. I shudder to think that he was less than 100% Saturday night. So bring it on. Everybody is being patient. They're completing passes. They don't force their way downfield. I have some issues with chance creation.
Fair.
But not much. It was expected to be a slow game for New York, and maybe not. It's what's expected in any road game. So I'm not entirely concerned, but concerned a bit. And thanks everybody in the media for tuning in to this week's game, because clearly no one watched it the first week.
Yeah, the comments out of, yes, it was another Red Bull murder ball game by some was clearly someone looking to cheat and just get their story in after week one. Again, it's only the 12th time in 29 seasons for this team that the club started with 4 points or better after 2 matches. They're in a 7-way tie for second place in the East before tiebreakers. And again, the idea that both of these games came on the road, Forsberg's ball off the crossbar, against Nashville goes in, and I mean, totally playing with house money, even though it's so early. So that said, I've got mine. You've got yours. Let's hear it. Who's your bull of the week?
Well, obviously it's Dan Edelman. Sorry, Dan. Lewis Morgan.
It's Lewis Morgan. Easily our bull of the week. And in a world where there are 29 teams, for any member of the Red Bulls to make the MLS team of the match day, just rolls off the tongue, is hard to do. So you give credit for Noah Ayla for making that happen. He's absolutely opening eyes across the league. But for my money, and I know it's probably pretty crowded at the attacking mid line, but Lewis Morgan with a tremendous performance. All right. So now let's turn our attention to FC Dallas. They are coming in. We're going to move this guy over here. We're going to make that go away. We're going to talk about FC Dallas. Saturday at 7:30, FC Dallas coming into Red Bull Arena for the home opener. They have a win and a loss currently on the new season. They're 6th in the West. Last season, 11, 10, and 13 for 48 points, 7th in the MLS West. They were tied for the second most draws in the league with Charlotte. Only Montreal had more. They extended Seattle Sounders to a 3rd game in the first round best of 3. Each team won at home in that series. They only conceded 37 times in 34 matches, which was good enough for second best defense in the West. They also, like the Red Bulls, struggled to score goals with 41 in 34 games. That was the 3rd worst attack in the West. And away from home last year, 4-7-6, which, is not bad. That's 10 of 17 games where you're getting somewhat of a result. And any type of road record like that is great, especially when you're considering that you're scoring so few goals. Let's give a look over here in terms of who they've changed in and out this year. The big move for Dallas was the signing of Croatian striker Peter Musa on a DP contract from Portuguese side Benfica. This is one of the biggest signings, other than Alan Velasco, we'll talk about it with Buzz Carrick, in club history. And as he'll tell us, Velasco was really spending the Ricardo Pepi money. And this was actually the Hunt family deciding, wait a minute, we've really got to spend a little bit more here and become really a buyer. Musa, relatively young, coming in looking to do good, level up his game and get flipped back. They also brought in Ecuadorian midfielder Patrick Delgado from Independiente del Valle. In Ecuador, they signed Omar Gonzalez, former U.S. men's national team player, really riding out the end of his career, still playing. They signed a young Romanian striker, Enes Sali, from a club in Romania. Jesus Jimenez, a Spanish forward, departed, as did Argentine midfielder Facundo Quignon. So keep that in mind. With the arrival of Peter Musa, Dallas has now signed their first proven goal striker since the departure of Pepe. Creativity, this is a team that has Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola and Bernard Camugo behind Musa. And when they're all healthy, this certainly could be an attack that drives a lot of headlines. Right now, however, they are absolutely destroyed from injury. Their diminutive Argentine attacker, Alan Velasco, went down with an ACL injury against Seattle. He's not back yet. 3 injuries across the first choice back line. Let's skip ahead here. We can take a look at that. Here are the lineups in the 2 games that Dallas ran out. Sometimes it was a 3-5-2. Sometimes it was a 3-4-1-2. But among the backline first choice strikers that are missing right now, Giovanni Jesus is out with a cruciate ligament. Marco Farfan has a back injury, and Sebastian Ibehaga, former NYCFC, has a calf injury. So that means that players like Omar Gonzalez, who are going to play, and Sen Junkwa, who's a left back, is going to be starting as a center back. There are 2 games so far this year. You can see again the lineups and the results. They have a 2-1 home win over San Jose. Sealy scored in the 94th minute for the win. It was a big moment for the striker, and then they went out. Peter Musa got his first goal last time out. Even the match at 1, but Martinez from Montreal scored the game winner for Club de Foot. There's a lot of history. These are 2 OG 96 teams. Red Bulls and Dallas have met 51 occasions. The last time they met was a scoreless draw at Harrison in April of 22. The Red Bulls lead the all-time series 26-18-7, and the Red Bulls are beaten in their last 8 meetings against FC Dallas, a winning streak that goes back 12 years to March of 2012. The last time Dallas won, it was a 2-1 win in Texas with Kenny Cooper, who was with New York at the time, getting the lone New York goal in the 78th minute. The last time Dallas won at New York, this team played at Giant Stadium. It was May of 2006, where a Seth Stamler 8th minute goal was offset by a Kenny Cooper goal, who was with Dallas, and a Carlos Ruiz winner for Dallas in the 87th minute. All time, the leading scorer is Clint Mathis, based on his 5-goal explosion against the then Dallas Burn. Sean Nealis has 1 goal. Let's quickly go back to the lineups, specifically to talk about what we might see on Saturday night. Martin Paes, very strong shot stopper. He has 3 goals against in 2 games so far this season. We're likely to see, due to these brutal injuries, Omar Gonzalez, who had 1 goal in New England last year in 17 appearances. Nikose Tafari, a young American that you'll hear Buzz Carrick say nice things about shortly, with 3 goals and 3 assists last year. Sam Junkwa, with 2 goals last year for Dallas, and then Bernard Kamugo, who is famously came to the U.S. from a Tanzanian refugee camp as a teenager and is lighting stuff up. Liam Fraser, the Canadian, at the 6. Asser Ilaramendi, a Spaniard who got one of Dallas's goals this year, is out with an injury, and we may see 31-year-old Sebastian Lletget at one of the 6s, which is not typically his position, but they're just so brutal, so many brutal injuries right now for Dallas. Dante Sealy with a goal. Jesus Ferreira will most likely play with Paul Arriola as the 2 behind Peter Musa. I think the big question, Joe, as we pull this back and we come back and we set up all of our on-screen doodars and
doodars,
is, this is a team that has 5 meaningful or 6 meaningful injuries to starters. They're coming to New York. They're most likely going to sit in a low block. They're going to be playing, counters and opportunistic counters when New York is falling behind. It's going to be a wet field. It's going to be 40 degrees and raining on Saturday night. We've already seen one team attempt to bunker against New York successfully, albeit in the first game. So what can we really expect to see out of the Red Bulls on Saturday? How are they going to break through?
I think that they're going to be patient and control possession. You mentioned that Dallas will sit in a low block. Basically, they're daring shots from the outside and crosses to nowhere. They have to figure out a way to attack down the middle and avoid the outside. I think that they Tolkien or Nealis are the wings backs here, and they need to be careful not to get too far up the field, because Forsberg is many things, but he's not the quickest, and his presence on the field really should be drawing defenders into the middle and spraying the ball all over the pitch. Noah Ely is key to this match, I think, because you look at the line breaking passes and what that means for the Red Bulls. It means that they can quickly transition.
Yep.
And that's everything to the Red Bulls. So I think that if if we're lucky, maybe more than Planet, you'll get a goal fairly early in this game. But you mentioned 6 absences for Dallas, and I know that you're probably licking your chops at the young lineup, but there are jobs to be won in these situations.
Yep.
So I expect nothing but the best for their attacking chances, limited as they may be.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I give some hope with the goal that was created, the first goal last week in Houston, right? We didn't see a lot of forward to forward passing at all last season, right?
Yeah.
I mean, New York just wasn't built to connect that way because you didn't have that strong presence in the middle pulling the strings. And yes, I realize, it was really Lewis Morgan that was helping all of that go. But the idea that Van Zier can feed Manuel, while not certainly earth shattering, just wasn't happening at all last season.
Yeah.
And so I think the goals from there, that type of a setup, are going to be great. I mean, Omar Gonzalez can't really move in the same way anymore. He's a big boy and he will plant himself in the middle of the defense. And I think it's really going to be up to New York to try and move around him and get things done. Again, I agree with you 100% on Isla's line breaking passes. I really am hoping that you're going to see Forsberg earning some free kicks around the box because, I mean, with a home crossbar instead of an unfriendly away crossbar, I think he's just going to, just find that inch to get it down and under. All right, we'll give predictions in a minute. Let's quickly move to Open Cup. For those of you fans that might not be following really closely, MLS has really made a mess of everything when it comes to the Open Cup, primarily because they don't control the revenue stream and they've invented other ways to make money and control the revenue streams. And they're very, very concerned about player load that happens outside the League's Cup, which of course they created to own the revenue stream and hopefully open the fan base up to fans of Liga MX teams, which are so very desperate to do. Also consider Copa America is going to be taking players away from the league. There are other tournaments. The Olympics are going to be taking players over the league. And so MLS made the decision that only 8 MLS teams are going to be taking part in the Open Cup, including last week's opponent, Houston Dynamo, who is the defending champion. Basically, if you are playing in CONCACAF Champions Cup and you're not Houston, you're not playing in Open Cup. In addition, they then went down the Supporters Shield table for last year and picked the 8 teams, or the 7 plus Houston, and that's it. Now, what that means is the other remaining MLS teams that have a team in MLS Next Pro which does not include DC United, the two teams are playing instead. And in fact, RB2 has drawn a really interesting matchup in the first round of the Open Cup. They're taking on Tyler Adams's Hudson Valley Hammers squad, the team that he formed in USL2 on Tuesday, March 20th at 7:30 at MSU Soccer Park. The following night, FC Motown, that has a lot of Red Bulls flavor, including former player Dilly Duca, who is the coach of that team, they're taking on NYCFC2 at MSU Soccer Park. And so if you like your Open Cup and you're able to get over your anger at MLS pulling out of the oldest club competition in North America, come support the young boys next week. Joe, it's a huge mess. It is as callous and financially driven as any decision. MLS just invented the Leagues Cup, and they are not about to drop it. And they are not about to share the spoils with U.S. Soccer, and they don't want MLS does not want Leo Messi having to play in a high school stadium in on the Gulf Coast of Florida. That's not why they brought him over, and so it's truly unfortunate, and it sucks. And there's some, I'm not going to lie, there's some compartmentalization that I think you have to do as an MLS fan to kind of be able to deal with these decisions that are being made at the league level. And before I let you know, give it to you, I also just want to say, there are a number of people that were like, well, why didn't the team just insist on playing in the Open Cup? And to that, I say, are you aware of how MLS is structured? It is a single business entity. And, you can't have the Columbus office going out of turn and saying, hell with you, we're just going to play. So it just kind of sucks, Joe.
Yeah, it does. I know Captain, my captain.
Yeah.
Turns, but you know what?
What?
You don't have to play Messi in an Open Cup game.
Right. Yep.
I don't. I've said it before on this podcast. I don't understand the ruling, and MLS effectively won here. And
they did.
That the sour taste left in my mouth is not great. But onward and upward, support RB2.
Yeah, definitely support RB2.
Support Motown.
Yeah, I mean, any reason to root against NYCFC, I think we should take. Yeah, I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's just it's crappy, and next year isn't going to get any better because the World Club Cup will be here, and the next year isn't going to get any better because of the World Cup. So, I think we really have to think long and hard about what these extra tournaments are doing. And listen, I was watching the CONCACAF Champions Cup earlier from Gillette. The game kicked off at 6. I mean, there were literally dozens of people there.
Yeah.
And they're not going to pull clubs out of that competition. It just is. It's not great. Let's move on to happier things. If you're a fan of, do you like to eat, Joe? Do you like food?
You know what? I do like to eat.
I like to eat too. And the folks at the Tops Diner, the famous East Newark eatery, have partnered up with the Red Bulls to release a special Red Bulls menu that fans can have between now and Sunday night to just kind of get the area focused and involved. I think there's a $25 Red Bulls burger in there. I'm not touching that, because that's not my diet to begin with, nor would I pay $25 for a burger. But this is, from what I understand, a phenomenal meal. And if you've been to the Tops Diner, you know that it's kind of a special place, and I would encourage you to check that out. Also, at 6 o'clock before the match on Saturday night, the Red Bulls will be rolling out the red carpet and having another red carpet player introduction to the fans in front of Red Bull Arena at the VIP entrance. Having gone to a number of these, it's super fun. And the other thing I want to say is, It's going to be wet, so dress appropriately if you go. And then apparently fans are getting light sticks. Every fan in attendance is getting a light stick as they enter Red Bull Arena. So that's some exciting stuff there, assuming light sticks are reason enough. It's not light stick night, but nevertheless. Joe, thoughts on light sticks?
I'm glad that they're not doing this when one of the rivals comes to town.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. Let's quickly whip through Eastern Conference predictions, and then we'll go talk to Buzz Carrick. Saturday, we have another great weekend with some afternoon games. Saturday at Yankee Stadium, City, who has not scored a goal or won a game.
I have to pick Portland here.
Yes, they're
yeah.
playing Portland. Yeah, for sure. TFC, I think it's a little bit of a surprise to be tied with the Red Bulls with 4 points. They have Charlotte FC at BMO.
Charlotte has played pretty good so far. It's another chance to rewrite their road woes last season, but it's not going to be against TFC.
Okay. Atlanta taking on the Revs. The Revs involved in Champions Cup playing tonight. They're dropping a house on, I think it's Herediano. It's Aluense from Costa Rica. Squad rotation going on.
Yeah, squad rotation. I guess Atlanta.
Columbus has a CCC match, I think, against Nashville. Do I have that right? They are welcoming Chicago Fire to Lower.com Field at 7:30.
If they rotate their squad, draw. If they don't, Columbus.
Orlando City went to Miami in front of a national TV audience on Fox and got smoked 5-0. And we were all talking about how Orlando was this great big thing, and they came out and fell to the Miami Messies by an ungodly score, and they have a chance. And they also have Champions Cup.
Yeah.
They have the Loons at home in Central Florida.
I'm going to pick draw.
Okay. Philadelphia had, I want to say, Pachuca last night. They played them to a scoreless draw, which is a huge achievement for Philadelphia, and they have Seattle making the trip all the way across.
I think I'll give the edge to Philadelphia.
All right, Sunday at 3, Cincinnati hosts Troy Lesane and DC United.
I'm picking against FCC every time, so DC.
They picked up DeAndre Edlin this week from Miami, desperately trying to get under the line at whatever they have to do. Nashville has the Galaxy at Geodis.
I think that I like the Galaxy in this game. They don't have CCC to worry about, and they're finding their early season form.
And Joseph Paintsil for them looks like the real deal. He is maybe it's not so bad. The Red Bulls aren't playing the Galaxy this year. And then 5:00 Miami, who, I mean, if you can drop 5-0 on Orlando, who is supposed to be one of the better teams in the East, I don't know if everyone's going to last all season there and stay healthy, but like, damn, they have Montreal in Fort Lauderdale.
I'm thinking that it's a bloodbath, but I could be wrong about Montreal because
they went to Dallas and won last week.
Won. So, but I still pick Miami.
Okay, and then lastly, our game Saturday night, 7:30 at Red Bull Arena. The Red Bulls host an FC Dallas side, and let me just, I know we're running long on our opening segment. Okay, when I say things like what the stats are, I guarantee you, I am not impacting the team at all. When I say that Dallas hasn't won in New York since 2006.
You're jinxing.
George W. Bush was president in 2006. Okay. it doesn't mean they're going to win, lose, or draw on Saturday. It has no bearing.
You offer ill portents.
Oh, stop it. Red Bulls in Dallas. Who you got?
Red Bull by a 2-1 score.
No, I think it's a 1-0 win. When we're back on Seeing Red, folks, we have our very good friend, that's Buzz Carrick of Third Degree. Keep it here, won't you? We'll be right back. We are back at Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. The undefeated Red Bulls, yes, 2 games in the tank, an undefeated charge to start the season. And listen, it's not every day that you have nearly 6 decades of focus on this league in one call. And nevertheless, here we are. I am very, very pleased to welcome back to Seeing Red for the first time on YouTube, Third Degree's Buzz Carrick down in Big D. Buzz, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's been a while since we've chatted, but you and I have been doing this for a long, long time for our various clubs coverages. And so this is definitely an OG podcast.
For sure it is. And how do you keep your hair like that? Because mine, something happened along the way for me. But
I'm starting to get some little bit of flex are coming in. My glitter coming in.
Good for you.
Yeah.
2 games for Dallas, both at home, a win and a loss, a late win and a loss. Tell us a little bit of the story of this FCD team. And we know there's some important injuries, but just reset for us. For these teams haven't played in a little while. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening with Dallas.
Well, for reasons that probably only he really knows, Coach Nico Esteves has decided to change his base formation from a 4-3-3, which is his bread and butter love formation. You know, he's a Greg Ballhalter guy, to a 3-4-3, or as he likes to call it, 3-4-2-1. He's very specific about the 2-1. You know, 2 narrow players underneath. They're not wide wings because that blocks your wing backs. So he's decided that, now, of course, Mark, tactics are fluid. Everybody plays multiple shapes that are flexing in and out, all that stuff. Base formation, though, new formation, trying to develop wing backs because, you can't just go sign 6 dudes in MLS unless you're going to Miami.
That's right.
So, he's short of a center back or 2, got some injuries, so it's a work in progress. You're combining the growing pains of a new formation with the growing pains of some guys in new formation, new shapes, new positions. So there's a lot of unease right now about what's happening in Dallas, even though it still had the same talent they had last year. It still have a decent squad, mid-table squad, but a little rough around the edges right now.
Yeah, but Peter Musa is obviously the man, right? I mean, this is the biggest investment that you guys have made in talent in ever. I mean, this is a huge signing.
This is a bellwether moment for FC Dallas. Prior to this, the record transfer was Alan Velasco for, give or take, $8 million. But that was Pepe money. But the Pepe money is gone. So this is Hunt in the pocket, or maybe it's Super Bowl money. Maybe that's what Mahomes money. But this is not Pepe money. This is the Hunt spending. Now, they've always spent before on things for the club's health, infrastructure, academy development, things that help them for 20, 30 years. This is the first time they've been like, okay, we need a 9. Here's $10 million for a 9. And we've seen him in training a little bit. We've seen him from one game, and all signs are that he's legit, quality at that value, at that price point. And so it's a complete different approach from the Hunts. They've sold out the first 2 games. Last year, they sold out about half the games. That's new.
Very much.
That's a longer discussion about how that happened, but it's new. Peter Musa is also interesting because a player like that, maybe the guy who's like a third striker at Benfica, would have jumped to mid-table Spain or bottom of Bundesliga. Not MLS was a viable option for him, so that's a new era as well. Probably as a result of Messi stuff, But so it's a very different day down here in Dallas. So we're kind of still all trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
North Texas Messi for sure. What does Why is he here? I mean, obviously the payday is nice, but why does a guy decide not to go to that low table La Liga team and instead comes to MLS? What is it about this that was so exciting for him?
Well, Dallas has a reputation already as a selling club, a club that was willing to move you to the next level if you will do it. And MLS, I'm finding, talking to not Americans, but to players that are from South America in particular, or these mid-tier European clubs we're now seeing also happen. Not that Benfica's mid-tier, but he wasn't their first choice guy. People are looking at MLS as a stepping stone league now. They see guys from this league making jumps to the big five leagues. I mean, you're not going to go from here to Bayern unless maybe you're like a superstar prodigy, but you can make these mid-table jumps to mid-table England, a Premier League, top of the championship, to the top half of Spain. Those kinds of things are now viable places for people from here. You're not going to go to Man City, but you're going to go to like the next tier below that. And so FC Dallas is a club that will bring you in and move you again more than some other clubs might in the league. But the league in general is now seen as a right outside that top 7 or 6 leagues. It's a viable place to be these days, again, partly because of Messi, but also guys like from Vega, Carlos Vega.
Yeah.
Like that, guys that have gone to Cincinnati, guys that these names that before would have skipped this league are now not skipping this league.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Talk to us. You had mentioned now Estevez has kind of mixed up his preferred formation a little bit. Talk to us about how Dallas plays. I mean, we haven't seen him for a little while. You know how Red Bull plays, so I'm just kind of curious as to, that's not a surprise, but I'd like to see what Dallas is trying to do when they're on the field.
Well, under Nico Estevez, it was a defensive first mentality. He was given a mandate when he was hired to stop the bleeding in the back, and so since he's taken over, they've been in the bottom 3 or 4 in goals allowed in the West or the league, either one over the past couple of seasons. But their scoring was not good. They're not producing enough goals. They have a couple of talented players, but they didn't have that next tier. So the change this season in formation is to attempt to get more scoring opportunities. They've always been under this coach not concerned with possession so much. They'll allow a team to have possession, which is name of the game a lot of times these days. Nobody wants to have the ball the whole time, and they're looking to turn you over like everybody else does. But they're not a high pressing team by volume. Instead, they run a mid to low block, particularly on the road. On the road is more lower than mid, and they kind of just hold the middle and wait for you to make a mistake, and then they pick it up and rapidly go at you in transition. So it's not a high press. It's not a Red Bull style high energy high press. It's more of a wait for you, and then not like over the top counter, but like rapid transition, picking up the field with guys like Jesus Ferreira, ball on the ground, Paul Ariel, ball on the ground. They're going to come at you quick and try and get you before you recover once you do turn it over. Now on the 4-3-3, they still want to play that way, but all the wide spaces now belong to the wing backs. They've got that box in the middle, the Philly box. Right. Anyone that's doing 3-4 has that 4-man trying to outnumber you 4-3, looking for that advantage internally, So again, some growing pains trying to figure it out, but they're not going to mind if you have the ball the whole time. And New York may be the same way. I mean, I know the Red Bull system, but the New York version of the Red Bulls, I think, are a little more patient before they get at you in a hurry. It's still the Red Bull way, but we'll kind of see how that translates. Of course, you're at home now instead of the road, so that'll be different.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some things I think that have really surprised our own fans over the first 2 weeks of the season. Definitely more possession, a much higher pass completion rate than we have come to expect. I mean, they were up in the 80% range against Houston last week on the road, which is really different, frankly. And, consider Dallas will be having their first road game, most likely, as you say, Buzz, a low to mid block. It's something that New York sees all the time. And the real question is, can players like Noah Ayla, who seems to be a diamond found, in Sweden, can he help generate the offense? Can Forsberg finally hit the net on a restart, because he's hit goalposts, crossbars each of the first 2 weeks? So it'll really be interesting. Let's get into a little bit about sellouts. Sure. At Toyota Stadium, because I mean, I'm old enough to remember. I mean, this is a team that through most of the team's time in Frisco, it's really been a struggle. What has been different over the last couple of years now?
Well, they've always announced 15, 17, but it hasn't been real. And you have to, I think, at this point, you have to give credit to Austin FC for this particular change, because whether as a fan you like Austin FC and pre-court that whole thing, I can understand that. But Austin came in and they demonstrated that in Texas, where you have the right facility, the right marketing, the right branding, the right personalities, the right game day atmosphere, you can create a great event and people will pack that place out. And both Houston and the Hunts were like, wow, you can? They were like, surprised. I didn't know you could do that in Texas. And so, FC Dallas, to its credit, has went and hired a VP of marketing. Yeah, they didn't have one. I mean, I can't.
Wait, what?
Don't get me. Like pre-pandemic, they had a director of marketing who had been doing that role. And then the pandemic hit and everybody had to dump staff. They dumped staff and dumped him. And so they went like 2 years without a VP of marketing or a head of marketing. So about a year after the pandemic, they hired a VP of marketing. I know, don't get me. So they hired a VP of marketing. And again, Pepe money, right? They took Pepe money and they gave a bunch of raises in all phases of the organization. They upgraded everything in all phases of the organization. They upgraded facilities. They upgraded and the most important part for this conversation is the marketing budget. And so they have gone out and done, shocker, if you spend money to market, people will learn about your team. And so they've raised brand awareness. They focused on the 30-minute, 10 whatever distance that is around Frisco, of which, by the way, there are more people there than there are around San Jose's team, for example. There are plenty of people. I know people like to joke about its long distance. That area is massively populated. There's plenty of people there to support a team. It is New York City, but what is, and so you do a little marketing, you start to create a little buzz, the stadium starts filling up. You're doing things like drone shows. You're doing things to get in other people that maybe were audiences you hadn't hit before. They come and they have a good time. They come back. So they sold out half the games last year and they've sold out the first 2 this year. And all signs are like, and I mean like legit sellouts, like, 95% full, totally sold out, 95% full. That's new. We've never seen that here. The atmosphere in the supporters club's getting better just by mass people coming in. So, you have to give the Hunts a lot of credit for the last 2 or 3 years since the pandemic, really routing this thing. And on top of that, they're about to drop $150 million plus into a total renovation of this stadium. They haven't announced it.
Wow.
Everybody that around here knows that it's coming. Dan Hunt and Clark have been talking about it. It coincides with the World Cup. They want to take advantage of the World Cup.
Sure.
They're not a host for games, but they could be hosts for some teams. And they want to, they're expecting this bubble to happen with the World Cup that happened from '94. They saw it last time. They're expecting it again, and they want to be ready. So they're going to put a bunch of money into the stadium and renovate it. It's going to be exciting around here to see what comes of that.
Are we going to see like a second deck on one of the two sides, like that kind of significant investment, or more just a refurbishment?
More like a tear down and redo and modernization, because the thing is 30 years old, not 30 years old, 25 years old, 24 years old now. So it needs a big refresh. You know how the South End looks with the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Whole thing like that is kind of the vibe I'm getting from talking to them.
More intimate bowl setting.
More modern, more cool, maybe some coverage of the sun. Certainly they own the land next to it. I'm hearing talk of like a hotel, mixed use, commercial viability around the stadium more than they already have. So it's exciting times to be an FC Dallas fan.
I mean, Frisco is one of the fastest growing towns in the country for, I think, over a decade now, right? It almost is its own little metropolitan area. And the idea of getting, 16,000, 18,000 fans there?
It holds 20,
20, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's tremendous. Let's go back. That's wonderful to hear. And really a 1.0 success story that I think everyone in the league, regardless of how long you've been a fan, I mean, if MLS can solve for its kind of lagging 1.0 teams, it's one thing to drop a brand new shiny $500 million stadium somewhere in your downtown area. It's a whole lot different to kind of really remake one of these OG teams and make it cool to be there. So that's great. Looking at the roster, is there anyone in particular that Red Bull fans should be keeping an eye on? Obviously Musa, they know Ferreira, they know Areola. We know Omar Gonzalez may play due to the injuries on the back line, but is there someone else that Red Bull fans should be paying attention to?
Well, Yarabindi, the Spanish player, unfortunately is not going to be available. It doesn't sound like. Otherwise, I would have said him. So that's a big one. We'll see, but it's not looking good. I would say around here, we're really excited about Nkosi Tafari, who's a young domestic center back who's now right on the cusp of the prime of his career, 26, 27. Just got his first Camp Cup big cape with the U.S. team in January. He hasn't been brought back in, but he's right there on the cusp of the discussion for us of like, could he be an all-star? You know, could he get into the top 5 or 6 center backs in the league? That's how highly he's thought of him here. He's become a big leader, big personality. You'll see him out there in the game. He's going to have a face mask on because he broke his nose, but he's a tremendous player in the back for FC Dallas. And if they were to lose him to an injury, they would be in a real mess in the back. It's already bad enough without him being hurt. And then Martin Paz, the goalkeeper, of course, the Dutch goalkeeper, is a phenomenal talent.
Yeah.
You know, and then everyone's heard by now the Bernie Kamungo story about the kid that's from Tanzania and refugee. I mean, the story's getting beaten on the ground, but it is an amazing story. He doesn't know, his profile is wrong for a 3-4-3, and they're trying to figure out how to use him. But when you see him, it'll be like, boy, what is he doing? Because he doesn't know what he's doing. But he has these raw moments that are like, okay, now I don't know why you're still playing him, because he has these moments where he just does these great things, and it's exciting.
Without Laramendi, who is next up on the depth chart for Dallas?
Well, it depends. There's some other injuries. Paxton Hamako's hurt too. So,
oh my goodness.
The Canadian Liam Fraser's been playing next to Yaramendi right now. They also gave a first minutes to Patrickson Delgado, who's an Ecuadorian 20-year-old. He's a U22 signing. So he's very exciting, but he's been here for only a couple of weeks. He's like a 6 kind of guy, maybe him. And then you have to look into other guys that can play as a central mid. Sebastian Lletget might get called on. You have Siki and Sebeling. You're looking at guys that aren't normally going to be starters. Some of those are going to have to start because Dallas has a couple of injuries at the beginning of the year.
Is Lletget legitimately, on the downside of his career at this point? I mean, he's kind of come in late in matches for you guys so far.
He's over 30. He's coming off of a little bit of a spring training knock, but this is the second straight year that's happened. And Father Time is undefeated.
Yes.
When you turn 30, it's not that you turn bad. It's just that, like, all of a sudden it's harder to recover. These little knocks start to add up. He's still U.S. men's national team fringe player, but probably not going to get back in anymore, but still very quality. Now, he had a bunch of off-field stuff last year that kind of messed with his head a lot, but he's still a very quality player. He certainly knows what he's doing. The 15 minutes he had last game, he looked really bright, so we're hoping that he's actually going to be back and positive. But again, 30, he'll be 31 later this year. You know how fast that falls off.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
It's been great catching up with you, Buzz. Dallas hasn't won in New York since 2006.
Ever? Maybe.
No, they've won, but
Yeah.
not in 18 years. And so my question is it going to happen on Saturday? What do you see here? A lot of injured players.
It's the kinks of Dallas. Dallas will be looking to kill the game. Like this coach has a mentality of gets a 60 or 70 with its zeros or even, and then take a chance late. They'll be looking to stop it. By the way, Mark, I don't know if you saw this right here. This is a Bobby Ryan North American Soccer League jersey from when the Burn played at the Metro Stars.
Wow.
And the Metro Stars did a North American Soccer League throwback jersey. And that's what that is.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Night.
I wanted to mention to you because, it happened at New York at the Meadowlands. I'm pretty sure.
Giant Stadium. Yep. Yeah. I do remember that. Now, that was not the night that Clinton Mathis dropped 5 on you guys.
It was not. That was later. Thanks for bringing that up.
Night.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was at that game too.
Tremendous. Listen, Buzz, where can fans find you to get deeper on Dallas?
thirddegree.net, and we're all over social media. Podcast is Third Degree, the podcast. It's all pretty self-explanatory under that brand. You can find us anywhere related to FC Dallas stuff.
Buzz, when these teams meet in MLS Cup this year, we will be back on to talk about someone breaking this schneid. But thank you so much for joining, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Oh, that's right. We're the last ones, aren't we?
Us and the Revs, my guy. Us and the Revs.
Oh, yeah.
We've got more Seeing Red coming up after this short break, so keep it here, won't you? Thanks so much. That is
my
not
heart grows warm.
Bulls on Parade, but rather something like it from our friend Mark Semen, longtime listener and supporter of the show. Thank you, Mark. You'll hear that in our intro as of next week, where another great friend of the show, TJ Bryan, will record our intro. But we can't use that particular song anymore, but we can use this one. So thank you, Mark. It's time for email. We want to make sure that you understand that you can write us. Actually, before that, we didn't do this. We didn't do it at the top of this show either. Like and subscribe. Mash that subscribe button. We are steadily growing our YouTube audience. If you are listening or watching us on YouTube, we kindly ask that you click like and then click subscribe. We are climbing our ladder to helping to be a meaningful part of the YouTube community. So make sure that happens. Thank you. And of course, email us anytime at seeingredny@gmail.com. And you could get your email read on air. And I am very, very pleased to hand off to my partner, Joe Goldstein, with this week's first special email.
Apologies. I may butcher your last name, but Wyatt Burkle writes, "Hi, Mark and Joe. I've appreciated your work covering the Red Bulls for years now. Your coverage and insight maintains a great balance. I can always count on you guys despite how scarce coverage of the Cub has been, especially since the transition to Apple. I also want to shout out Joe for jumping back into the pod after his brain injury. It has been an inspiration for me because I suffered a traumatic brain injury a few years ago, playing soccer incidentally. I also struggle with speech still, so it means a lot and it is inspirational for me to be able to listen to Joe every week. It's a great reminder for me to keep going and putting myself out there. I also just appreciate that Joe keeps going for himself, too. Mark, I really appreciate your co-hosting as well. As someone who understands the struggles of getting back to work after a brain injury, I think you do a great job as co-host and colleague with Joe. Great stuff, and keep it up, you too. Thank you, Wyatt."
That's absolutely tremendous sentiment. And, Joe is someone that has watched you come back and rebound. This is the first time since you've been back that you've read an email.
Yep.
And I am blown away by the courage that you've shown and the passion that you have for the show and the passion that you have for the team. So, and thank you, Wyatt, for such a wonderful note.
Thank
Joe, anything
you,
to add?
Wyatt.
Yeah, that's really great. Wyatt, I believe I may have spelled your name wrong on this banner on the screen, and I apologize for that. There's an E in there that I omitted by accident, so my apologies, but thank you so much. Here is Jose Gonzalez, who says, "Hey, Mark and Joe, I started listening to the show towards the end of the 22 season and become a die-hard fan and look forward to every new pod. Thank you for the great content that you bring week in and week out, especially the new stuff on YouTube and Instagram. And if you're not following us on Instagram, it's at Seeing Red NY there. So we would appreciate a follow there as well. I think the only the surliest of fans can look at how we begun the season and not be excited. There are definitely areas that are still untested, but the reckless optimist in me can't help but imagine what celebrations will look like to commemorate winning the League's Cup and the Supporter Shield and MLS Cup in one fell swoop. But back here on planet Earth, most people can at least see how big a difference Forsberg is making already. Do you both have any early predictions about how many goals and assists he'll get us this season? On one more dour note, I don't think I'm alone in, let's say, my disappointment in the U.S. Open Cup drama. I know you're not necessarily activists, but do you have any suggestions on how we can let MLS know that this is wrong? Should we boycott games? Should we not watch Leagues Cup? Special kudos for Joe for being courageous in the face of adversity and wish you all the best in your continuing recovery journey. P.S. It'd be fun to see you have a friendly competition on the pod to see who is more correct around your East predictions. Maybe whoever loses can be the Bulls slinger of the week or year. Thanks, Jose from East Rutherford, New Jersey. Jose, that was a tremendous email. Thank you so very much. Thoughts on how you can show first of all, thoughts on maybe Forsberg's goals and assists this year?
I I see him with limited numbers in both categories because I'm watching him setting up the key passes, and I think that will deflate his numbers a bit. Case in point, his feed out to Van Zier before the cross. So I think maybe 5 goals and 10 assists this year. And that would be like a tremendous amount for any one player on the team.
Also, when you consider that he has already played half a season in Europe this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can expect when the days grow long and the temps grow warmer, certainly warmer than this, it's a brutal day today, you might see a slight dip in his performance. I was going to say 7 and 12. And I think a lot of those goals are going to come through the free kick stuff that we've seen. Okay, quickly, next, boycotting the Open Cup decision.
Maybe I want to go with like boycotting Leagues Cup or join a supporters group in some action against MLS. I think that the supporters all should plan an action and welcome fans
to take part. You know, the St. Louis guys did something really cool. I don't know if you saw it. They carried banners with the Open Cup and the names of the teams from St. Louis that had won the tournament and years that they had won the tournament. I thought that was a really creative and interesting way to talk about the history of the competition and the meaningful nature for St. Louis. There are plenty of New York area teams that have won the Open Cup, and it would be interesting to do that as well. I wouldn't boycott MLS games. The players deserve your support. I think some sort of a banner or something makes sense. I'm not sure how open the stadium is to having banners if you're not in the supporters section, to be frank. And then for a bull slinger of the week and year, I mean, we're both, I don't know how you're doing in fantasy. I'm 0 for 2 and I'm not doing well.
Last week was my first win.
Oh, congrats.
I played no one.
Oh.
A team of blank slots. So
and you won?
Yeah.
Oh, that was your opponent, was a team of blank slots. All right. Well, a walkover, as they say.
Yeah.
We'll consider
it. Up against anyone else, I don't know how I'd be doing.
I thought I had put together a really nice team, and I on principle I wasn't playing any players from Miami, and that was a mistake. Do you want to take a look at this next one, or should I go for it?
From
Dan?
You go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark and Joe, says Dan McDevitt, longtime listener and writer of the show. I've been avoiding sending this letter with the latest news about the Open Cup. I expect you'll be talking about it, and I feel someone needs to provide some opposing view to all the MLS bashing. So here it is. I have no problem with MLS not playing in the Open Cup. Neither the league as a whole nor the individual teams receive any benefit from participating in it. It costs money, adds to schedule congestion, confuses ordinary sports fans, and for what? The only argument I've read for why MLS should participate is that it's the oldest club competition in the U.S., and everyone in Europe does it. But MLS doesn't play in Europe, and just because something is old doesn't mean it's valuable. MLS's number one priority remains increasing its audience. If participating in the Open Cup could do that, it would have happened already. While there's no guarantee that pairing up with Liga MX for the Leagues Cup will work either, at least it's trying something different rather than sticking with what is known not to. American soccer traditionalists may pine for the lost David and Goliath matchups like Smallville SC versus Sporting Kansas City, but big picture, there's no positive outcome of that game for SKC. If they take it seriously, it's added travel and wear and tear on their starters and no fanfare for an expected win. If they don't take it seriously and play as many reserves as possible, they risk losing and contributing to the narrative that MLS is a low-quality league. In short, MLS gets no money, no new fans, no reward for winning, and risks a lot by losing. Why should they play in the tournament? For tradition? Yes. It's short-sighted argument for a league where, according to Forbes, more than half the teams are money-losing enterprises. Major League Soccer needs to do what's best for its teams, its future, and its bottom line. And playing first teams in the Open Cup doesn't fit in that calculation. I'm sorry to be a bucket of cold water, but I keep reading a lot of willful ignorance about this decision. Fans need to stop romanticizing things and wake up to reality. If MLS is ever going to move beyond being a niche league in the American sports landscape, it can't be held back by things that are detrimental simply for the sake of tradition. Sincerely, Dan McDevitt. Dan makes points, Joe.
Yeah, he does. I'll agree with that. I don't see how like Leagues Cup has sponsors, okay, but the Mexican fans who attend those games, they're not coming back.
Yep.
So it's short-term gain versus long-term gain, and MLS has had so many unstable tournaments mid-season, and maybe the Leagues Cup lives on and is storied by the clubs, but the Open Cup has always been there for us.
So for you, the answer is just no. It's tradition, and you don't monkey with tradition.
Yeah, it's not a big wear and tear on the schedule. It's just not. Most clubs play at max 2 games per year, and that it's not going to make or break your season.
Especially at a time when the two teams, right? They're trying to get more competition for these young players. And for me, the answer is, well, call them up and play them.
Yeah.
It should really be up to each individual team as to whether they want to play. Or do you have a coach or a GM that talks to the fans and say, look, we've got CONCACAF Champions League. We've got Leagues Cup. It's too much. We're just going to play the kids. And as upsetting as that may be to the fans, can you not understand? I mean, to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, you have to win 10. You have to play 10 matches, right? I think they started the round of 32. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of games, especially earlier in the season when you're also juggling league games as well.
Getting up to speed, not injuring key players for you.
Right.
It's a losing battle.
So just play your kids, or just play kids in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. Here's Josh Guerra. Do you want to take this, or shall I?
I can take it.
Go for it.
Mark and Joe, nobody asked me, and likely never will, but I would say listening to Seeing Red might be the single most consistent source of joy and candor in the NYRB universe, so to speak. I doubt very much that I could ever express how much you have added to my life since 2011.
Wow.
That predates me. Thank you.
That's phenomenal, Josh. Thank you.
I wasn't sure after the match in Nashville, but after Houston, it seems clear to me that the team has already started to evolve under Schwartz and with roster additions. To me, the most revelatory addition has been that of Noah Eel. His passing range and courage seems to add a dimension to the team that I, frankly, had stopped even imagining for NYRB. Maybe that's ridiculous, but in watching him play in Houston, I realized that I had stopped imagining our center backs playing a sophisticated role in our buildup. I suspect you will talk about Eli's performance in Houston, but do you think his play will change what is asked of our center backs more in general? How do you think it will influence the team's identity moving forward? Thank you again for your dedication to this team and its supporters. Ever in admiration, Joshua Guerrera.
That was phenomenal, Josh. And all I'll say to you is thank you for listening, and now thank you for watching. That's a tremendous message, and thank you for staying with us for so very long.
Yeah.
It's a long time. I think we talked on Ayla's ability earlier in the year, and I mean, to be fair, I don't want to say that the center backs haven't played a role in the buildup in previous years, because they have. But I think what you're seeing now is a player that is, and this is no knock on anyone currently on the team, is so confident and so skilled in his ability to go for it, to make those, to even attempt those kind of passes. He seems to see a tiny window and is able to just get the ball in as quickly as possible. The team has conceded 1 goal in 2 games on kind of a breakdown, to be fair.
Yeah.
But Ayla, I really have to look deeply at where Ayla was on the ball that eluded Daniel Edelman. But I think he's a revelation. And, as we had been talking about, get ready to see John Tolkien eventually depart. I think Ayla's time in Harrison will probably be relatively short if he is doing what he's doing here. I mean, it's a phenomenal signing. The kid, we talked to him last week and posted on our socials. He seems to have a tremendous head on his shoulders. He's got, Emil Forsberg here. I mean, it's been a dream start for him.
I think that he's a more traditional center back than what we're used to seeing over these past years. Red Bull works best if there's a finesse passer and a rough and tumble sheriff. And he certainly fits the finesse passer. You go back to it's Matt Miazga, Damian Peronel, Tim Ream.
Absolutely.
Center backs had one thing in common, and they could open up space for others off the pass. And we got away from that a little bit. Aaron Long is closer to an Eagle center back, but lacks the precision. But he's the real deal, and I hope we can hold on to him for the near future.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Josh, for your note. We'll close with an email from Grant Peterson. Grant Peterson is a Philadelphia Union fan. And here's what he wrote. I started listening back when you had Kevin Kincaid on a while back. I'm a Union fan. I kept listening and has probably listened to all of the last 35 to 40 episodes because Mark and Joe are very pleasant and calming to listen to. And I drive a ton and know your enemy, et cetera, et cetera. Keep up the good work.
Wow.
Thanks, Grant. That's phenomenal.
Is this the first email in Seeing Red history written by an opposing fan?
If it isn't, it's definitely in the first 3 or 4. I mean, and Grant, wherever you're driving right now, as you listen to us, we hope that you do not have any traffic ahead of you, because that's a tremendous thing. We love Kevin Kincaid, and we'll definitely have him back on when New York eventually plays Philly. But that's great.
Should I add ASMR to Grant's?
Sure. What are you going to be doing?
I'm going to be doing drinking the water and taking pills.
We don't want him to. We don't want him to fall asleep. He's driving. Gosh darn it. We've come to an end of a terrific episode of Seeing Red, a long one. We thank you for sticking with us. If you've gotten all this way, it's episode 565. Certainly want to thank Zach Feldman for his stats. Want to thank Buzz Carrick of Third Degree for coming by. He is top notch. We want to thank everyone who wrote in today and everyone who's watching and listening. Please please subscribe. Joe calls Saturday night's match a
2-1 win.
I'm going to call it a 1-0 win against a bunker. I think Forsberg hits a free kick. I will have Seeing Red 15th anniversary stickers on me if you find me. I'll be the guy with the gray hair. For Joe, I'm Mark saying thank you again for listening and watching Seeing Red. And we'll be back next week, everyone. Have a good night.